Tennessee Titans fans, General Manager Mike Borgonzi is on the Rich Eisen Show, and he has a message for Titans fans. Well, I feel as though we should probably check this out. If the general manager has a message for Titans fans, I want to hear it.
Obviously, when you choose a quarterback first overall, the rest of the draft kind of gets lost. So let's put it up on the screen here. Pound the table for wherever you wish, or the whole thing. Go for it, Mike.
Well, I think collectively as a group, we wanted to bring in, I think we got some really talented guys here, but we wanted to really emphasize, the personal and football character, makeup traits of all these guys. And all these guys were leaders. And
that's a big part of it. And I talked about it back when the season, which was terrible, was happening. I talked about it since then. Of course you need talented guys. I mean, of course you need guys that can play and play well. But in the case of the Tennessee Titans, you also need some guys who can install a culture, who can help you, develop a culture and a personality of the team. The Titans had no culture last year. There was no defining characteristics about that team at all. And so just as much as needing good players, absolutely, you also need guys who were leaders in college. You need guys with good character who can come in and build the program, not just on the field, but in the locker room as well.
And really check the box in terms of all, everything we look for and to being a Titan. We took Femi, in the second round here. He's a young guy that, he played actually middle linebacker, and then they moved to the edge the fourth game of the year. So he's got a lot of upside as a pass rusher. And then Kevin Winston we took here in the third. Probably would have went a lot higher in the draft. He hadn't hurt his knee the second game of the year, but he's recovering.
I even saw some people who said he would have been the second best safety in the draft if he had not gotten hurt. Of course, there's no way to know that for sure, because if he hadn't got hurt, who knows how he would have played last season. But
and he should be ready here for training camp. And then we took some skill guys here in the fourth and fifth with Chim and Gunner and Alec, guys I think that can develop and help this offense and grow with the young quarterback.
Hope so.
And then we took a few these guys in the later rounds with Jackson Slater. Is a guy that coming from an FCS school, got to see him at the Senior Bowl. He's going to have great value as a swing interior guy, plays guard and center. And then Marcus Harris was a guy that, had transferred a couple of times, but every year he got better, played his last year at Cal. And then my last guy I had to say for last is Khalil Mullings.
Oh, baby. I know him, Mike.
And he's a Boston guy, and I know he's a Michigan guy, so you love him too. So we were hoping that he'd be there. I was happy when I was able to make the phone call to him.
Oh, my gosh. Seriously, what he did for Michigan, certainly this last year, certainly, honestly, without him.
I mean, he'll have his opportunity, Khalil Mullings, because Tony Pollard, theoretically, you're looking at one more year with him. Tajay Spears, I'm hopeful about him, but I'm iffy on his injuries, his durability. And then, Khalil Mullings, he's got a shot to find a spot there.
And there was no victory over USC, period.
Yeah.
Sharon Moore running the ball on third and a little bit longer than manageable in the horseshoe to try and get a first down, and then he broke their back. That's the sort of stuff, Mike. I love that pick for you, but I'm biased.
Yeah, I love him too. He's a Boston guy. He's a Michigan guy. So he's a former linebacker that turned running back. So he's a big back that runs hard.
All right. So what do you tell your fan base about the expectation level before I let you go on your day here, Mike? What do you tell them?
Yeah, I think that, we still have a lot of work to do here on this roster, and it's never going to stop. Our job here is to create competition and create depth on the roster.
I think that is his way of saying, yeah, we're going to sign some guys this summer. We're going to bring in guys at the linebacker position, maybe some interior defensive linemen. But ultimately, that's also his way of saying we can't fix everything in one offseason. This roster was terrible. This is, I think, what he means. This roster was terrible. We're tasked with fixing it. That takes time. But we feel like we've got a good starting base with the guys that we've drafted and with the free agents we've signed. And we'll try to be as good as we can, and then we'll go out next off season and we'll build and build and build.
And that, we want to win as soon as possible here. But we also realize that, we're going to have to build this thing up again. If we have the number one pick here, we don't want to be there again. But our expectation here is to gradually get better, and keep adding good players with good football character. And eventually, I think we have a great group of. My staff is unbelievable here. I added Dave Ziegler and Reggie McKenzie, both former GMs, and I get a chance to work with Chad Brinker here. So, I have a really good group here, and we're just going to continue to get better here.
I mean, he pretty much just told you, like, hey, we want to be good as soon as possible. We don't want to rule out the possibility that something like what happened with the Commanders last season could happen here, where you go from, you're like Hercules, you go from zero to hero in no time flat. We don't want to rule that out. We're not going out this season trying to tank. We're not going out knowing that we're barely going to win any games. No, we want to be better. We want to win as much as we possibly can, and we want to be as good as we could possibly be. And nobody wants that more than, well, Brian Callahan, first of all, because he's on the hottest seat of anybody. But also, I mean, Mike Borgonzi's a first-time GM. He doesn't want to come in here and end up with a top 5 draft pick and be that bad. But at the same time, it takes time. We got to build this thing up. And Titans fans may not want to hear this, but fact of the matter is, if the Titans come out this year and they were to go 7-10, 8-9, if you even maybe 6-11, like if you end up kind of middle of the pack territory, Titans fans aren't going to want to hear it, but I think you kind of consider that a victory because you were 3-14 last year. You were the number 1 pick in the draft last year. You sucked. You were the worst team in the league. So if you can find your way up to middle of the pack respectable, there you go. You take that as a major step in the right direction, especially if Cam Ward plays well. Great, build a monument. If Femi Oladejo emerges, if Kevin Winston emerges as a good safety, if Alec Aomanor and Gunnar Helm and Chim Dike, if these guys, if Devondre Sweat takes a big step in the right direction, if Jarvis Brownlee takes a big step in the right direction, if Tyjae Spears is able to stay healthy, if J.C. Latham is a lot better at right tackle than he was at left, those are the things that determine whether this is a good season or not. But absolutely, if the Titans can win some more games, if they can get to at least a middle of the pack territory, I'm not going to rule out that they could do what Washington or Houston did and go from zero to hero. Anything could happen. That's why they play the game. I think at this time last year, Washington would have probably been saying the same thing that Borgonzi's saying right there. Hey, we just want to be better and we want to build it up. But then they ended up in the NFC Championship. So anything's possible, like Kevin Garnett said. But Mike Borgonzi is making sure hey, could take time to build this thing up. Might need another offseason. It's not fun to hear, but it's realistic. Tighten up.